everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership with the Twist podcast. I am your fearless leader and host, Heather McGonigal, here with my co host, Barbara Schindler. Welcome back. And today we're going to talk about context. Context is king, it's very important. But what context do you give? How much is too much? How much is too little? What do you share? Who do you share it with? And why? When are you sharing too much? So let's jump into this topic. Barbara?
Yes, we were chatting about this topic in one scenario. I've done a lot of coaching recently that have touched on this in various ways, from, giving the context always when you're delegating to tie the task or the assignment to the outcome you're going for. This creates that cross-functional work together, that we're not just doing a task. This came up recently over kind of in the team gap was, hey, I'm sending these things to our IT person and they're kind of doing their own prioritization and we're not in sync, right?
Gotcha.
And so I'm looking for things and I'm constantly feeling like I'm pestering them and that doesn't feel good. And so there's a gap there, right? And so part of the delegation would be to give enough context so that you're sharing how you see the prioritization out of the things that are being passed around to the IT department. So this is for the launch at this phase. This is for, we're sending out reminders to our members of our membership, and we're hoping that it gets them in time to be thinking about the spring season and what they want, like whatever those context pieces are.
Exactly.
So then the person receiving it has some of your thinking when they're now prioritizing their list of things that they need to do and when. The other context piece is like, hey, here's this piece, sending an assignment over, and I need it back in order to mail it out to our clients by Tuesday. It would be great if I could receive this back by Monday morning. Is that doable? So starting to have even dialogue of context in the stages before you're actually doing the doing, you're getting some team agreements. And some of that context that we're talking about is, what do we agree about how we're working together? Because that's going to help you know what context is needed to share.
Great. So let's take those two examples. The first one with the IT example, I hear that's a great example for people. And we do have a delegation formula that we teach. People can read about it in our blogs, probably in other episodes of this podcast. We won't deep dive into it. But I love how you gave that example and how in coaching you're working out that, oh, there's been these issues and probably these misfirings in how work is getting done, and we can actually diagnose that we can do better delegation here inside of this team. This leader and this IT person can probably do better delegation in how things are happening and get things back on track. And in fact, there's probably some key context missing in the initial handoffs that would help the IT person better understand how all the pieces fit together and why they matter in certain timing, etc. And so that's why you shared about how it related to the launch and the different things, right? And so that's working better to close the gap by adding that context in. And then in the second scenario, I love we added the color of starting out in handing off tasks in the beginning of delegation, just being aware that even if we work in the same company on the same team, we don't know what's on everybody's plate, right? If you're going to delegate something to me right now, we're on the same team. You might have some idea of what I am working on, but you don't know everything, right? So as you're going to hand something off to me, you might be like, Heather, I don't even know what's the capacity. What do you really have on your plate? I'm thinking I need support. This thing needs to be done by Thursday. Is that even doable? right?
Yep.
And having the ability to really be more aware, to slow it down at the outset of
Hmm.
delegation, to check in with one another on the capacity. What's the capacity? What's the capacity of you? What's the capacity of your team? We're thinking this is the timeline. Is that doable? What else might be needed? What, in some scenarios, we might need to, at that handoff, talk about different prioritization of tasks on my plate. Maybe my plate is full, but if the thing that you need support with really does need to be done on Thursday, maybe I have a bunch of things on my plate, but they don't actually need to be done by Thursday, right? So there's a different conversation that can happen.
Right, right. So context is important in delegation, and I call those, like team interaction when you're working together, right? Getting things done together. And another area that it is when you're bringing ideas forward or you're problem solving together. This is something that's always been a sticking point for myself and some of my clients that I've been coaching recently. We talked about this. I'm a little bit of a trailblazer in our quadrants of leadership. And so I move fast often. And in that fast movement, I'm like, I've thought it out, I've processed it, I've decided this is the action. I bring it to the team or the team meeting, and I shortchange myself by not sharing enough of the thinking to allow people to see how I got to this fantastic solution or this fantastic action, right? And so then then the exchange starts happening, and I'm like, oh no, that's they don't understand what I was saying. They're off track. And I realize for, myself and many others in this way, it's like I need to share enough of the thinking. And that's what we were talking about, like how much is enough and how much is too much, depending on the scenario. But in the context of that, you know, how much, can I bring forward? Here's some of my thinking. Here's what I came up with. And this is what I thought and how I got there. These are some of the things I considered and why I and landed here and the benefits I see of this, the challenges I see of this. Like it sometimes, at least for me, I've always been a little shy about sharing too much thinking.
Right. Well, some people do get shy about sharing too much thinking, and this is something with, as coaches, we've worked with people on, because it is a spectrum, and you can land somewhere on the spectrum of being an oversharer of all your thinking. And sometimes that's a trauma response from being a human being in different environments, and thinking you need to share all your thinking to keep yourself safe. And you can be on the other end of the spectrum of sharing none of your thinking to keep yourself safe. Like, I'll just be quiet and I'll be over here and I'll get my work done and I'll share none of my thinking. And then the truth is, we want people in the middle, in a healthy balance of that, in the center in business, to share our thinking in healthy ways, that we're going to bring forward what's relevant to the business, what we need to share in this moment to bring people up to speed, to have them right here with us at this moment, caught up. They have enough information to know why I'm sharing what I'm sharing, why it matters to this moment in the business right now, and now they can receive the information, right? But because being a human being is complex, and we all come with our own baggage and things we've gone through, we do have this spectrum of things we've survived, and how we've survived them. People are on this different spectrum of survival mechanism. And to be in self leadership, showing up at your best self at work, is to be in the center of that, and to be thinking, pause, what's best for the business? What am I bringing forward in this meeting with these people as to how I got here, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And it does tie into something else that has been coming in up in coaching a lot lately. There's a couple trends that have been happening in people's work lives and transitions in roles and responsibilities. But tying into that is the context of um, holding the let me see how I was going to say this, the bringing forward, um, how this ties into the work we're doing together. So that's like, here's the
Mhm.
outcome. Definitely tying it in into that more, and bringing forward, here's what I was working on. Here's what I'm seeing. Um, Bringing forward the connection, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Maybe the connection to,
Like why I think this is important.
yeah, and like kind of bringing it into the context of the bubble we're working in. These are the goals. I'm tying it to the goals, but trying to bring it down a notch to, working on these things because it's the place that we can meet together,
Yeah.
the goals, right? So that's when you were talking about safety. I was just thinking, well, that also ties into bringing our ideas together in the place like, where is my teammate? Where are they thinking? Where are they operating from? Because the one place we can meet is somewhere on that line of the goals we're working together for.
Well, a very good habit when you're presenting an idea in a meeting or to a group or whatever is to start with the end, right?
Hmm.
As
Yeah.
like that practice instead, because in a room, people can be, not fully listening because they're like, where is she going with this?
Yes.
So it can be a very good practice to go,
Good
I
point.
think I found a solution for that issue we were concerned about in the upcoming launch. Let
Hmm.
me share some context for how I got here. Now everyone knows, oh wait, now we know why we're listening to what Heather's about to share because she thinks
Yeah.
she found a solution to the issue that we were concerned about. Great. Now everybody's caught up and they're ready to listen and they know why it matters too. There was this
Hmm.
issue we're all worried about. Heather thinks she solved it. Now my brain's caught up and I'm listening to why she's talking, right? So that's a very, very good practice. So all of these things, and I did briefly mention self leadership, self protection in that spectrum. So let me
Hmm.
just tease that out about a little bit too. We as human beings, you've probably heard Barbara and I talk about this before if you've been around for any length of time, but we all as human beings have an amygdala and a fight flight system designed to protect us from danger. This system is not updated for modern day situations. It is meant to prevent us from being harmed in, climate disasters and keep us safe from wild animals. It does not understand your Monday morning meeting and the stresses that go along with that. But it does misinterpret them all as life threatening
Right.
and very dangerous. So, we do have our own teachings and support for how to pause and shift yourself from self protection and self leadership. Enough for this conversation, just for you to know and remember there is self protection and the difference of self leadership, and your default is self protection. You want to always pause and make sure you're in self leadership and then consider what is the context people need? What do I want to share? How much do they need to know? What do they need to know to do their part effectively? What do I need to update people on? That's how you want to filter what context is powerful and relevant from self leadership, not from self protection.
Right. And some business leaders are working on this discernment of that by also recognizing what's my authentic uh, way of being. One of the leaders, her approach is to be a good listener as a leader. Great, right? Active listening. And in that, it's like, is that the strength that she has, is that a learned talent, skill, or is that like innate in her, you know, toolbox of natural instincts and talents, right? Like part of the things about sharing and oversharing, uh, yes, self-protection for sure, and self-leadership, and also tying into that is that a pattern I picked up in my last job when, I never felt understood, so I stopped sharing, and so my style is not to share. So, like
Yeah.
recognizing that's not your natural state to not share, that kind of was a learned behavior in a certain circumstance. People are starting to work with differentiating that a little bit in their coaching so that they can be, well, I want to, do the next level of leadership. Sometimes we have to look at, is this a learned behavior? Is this a natural skill? Or is this a skill I have to develop even to actually get into this place? Again, it's about sharing context, but it's like, what's my pattern? And is this a learned behavior somewhere I should let go and build new skill? Or am I leaning into my natural talents? And it's my natural way of being, but I just kind of forgot how to do that. I mean, like there's different avenues to be developing yourself in this,
Yeah.
and
And
discerning that can help.
I also love the focus of the leader working on something like listening and having that as something they're centering themselves on and knowing that I want to grow to the next level as a leader and this is going to support me to show up as my best self as a leader with the listening.
Yeah, yes. And we certainly work in our coaching with clients this way to be like, what's your leadership reputation? What's the natural way that you want to be? How do you want to be known? And how do you want to show up? Right. And so if you have that, I want to be an active listener. I want to bring a calm state to the environment of our interactions. Then, put it on a little index card or sticky note or on your desktop in some other, uh, you know, more
Mm-hmm.
electronic way. But
Yeah, an
that's your
electronic
filter.
post-it note. Yeah.
Exactly. I was playing with those just yesterday. I like those. So, so it's like, then you are anchoring yourself in a self-awareness of how you want to show up in all circumstances, right? And from that place, I'm calm and I'm an active listener, and I bring a presence of collaboration in all my interactions. So in that place, I've now anchored myself into being really more positioned to discern what do I need to share, what I don't need to share, because as you said, it can be different in different circumstances. But now I'm getting myself into a better place to interpret what's needed right now.
Yes. I also want to highlight this word discernment you've said a few times in this episode, Barbara, because I love this word discernment. And I think that in 2026, it's a very powerful word for people to use as an anchor point as well. Um, I usually around the new year and stuff focus on a leadership like word of the year. And I think
Mm,
discernment is such a great word and so needed in the current climate and environment. So although right now it's not the new year, we're well into spring, we're well into the new year, but we are in such an environment for that from the outside source feels chaotic, feels like there's a lot of moving pieces and constant change. I think that word discernment in all that you're doing and how that you're moving inside of your team, inside of your interactions, in your business decisions, in your conversations with your CEO. Discernment is so necessary so that you're not bumped around by all the external forces of constant change.
right, right. And it's definitely kind of a step that we often forget to take a moment with. In any situation, you're checking to ground yourself in the present moment, checking in what those feelings, are my emotions driving. I need to take a breath. My amygdala is, activated in the meeting or whatever. So we're checking in with ourselves. What's our instincts telling us? What's that gut feeling? What's our intuition? What emotions are showing up to give us messages? All of that because we're a whole person and we want to not just work from our intellect, but work from a holistic way of being human in this situation. Then we need to be discerning, not quite discerning yet, looking at the facts first. That's the step, here's what's happening, get clear, like, what's the situation and What scenario is this happening in? Then you get to the discernment. Again, being a speedy trailblazer type person myself, I've often tripped up in the past of just going, this is a great idea. We've got it now. I've looked at the facts and we're ready to go. And that discernment that you're talking about, 2026, is really calling for everybody to slow that down for a moment and take the moment to play it out. How is this going to play out if I share this information this way? Is that too much information? How would this really land? I think it's a great idea, but let me play it out for a moment. Let me discern how that might impact Heather in her role, or the way Sally thinks about things in her role, or just the timing. Is this really the best time to share that much of details about this? Or
Or given
right?
what I know about my CEO, is this the best way to frame up this
Yes.
information in this conversation? We know a lot, sorry, we know a lot about our teams, our team members, our CEO, and we learn about each other. And so we know a lot, really, that we can factor in how we want to share information. So we want to take that time to discern. The other thing is we often get driven by this inner sense of urgency, but unless you are an ER doctor in the middle of the surgery, right? Like someone's
Mhm.
on the table and you're doing surgery, like the in business, you're not really in a life or death situation in many of the times that it feels like a life or death situation. You could benefit, the business will benefit more from you pausing, slowing down, and leaning into this discernment.
Right, right. And for a good example, like sometimes that, again, going back to what happens before discernment, checking in with yourself. Am I getting caught up in the angst of everybody else? Like, oh, we've got to deal with this right now. This thing is happening, right? Then you come to okay, wait, what's happening and what kind of timing are we in here? No, we're not doing brain surgery right now. We're sending out some important messages to our clients that will have an impact on our membership. Okay, but that's not this, it's this, right? And so now we can take that moment to discern, how best to sing it. And you're absolutely right, Heather. It's knowing ourselves first, and then allowing ourselves to also understand and know how others around us, our teammates, our CEO, our clients, how they think, how they operate. Because even though it would work great for me, it's a great idea. I would respond this way, right? We
Yeah.
have to play that out sometimes and be like, oh, this actually isn't the best time. Maybe I should gather more information. Maybe I should just do more active listening before I share these ideas and better know the context that I'm delivering it in to get the outcome that I foresee as the benefit.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, I think we did it for today's conversation, but I do want to mention something. Barbara, you mentioned a couple of times that you're a trailblazer, and we do have a leadership quiz, and it's on our website, empoweringleadershipteams.com website, and there'll be a link also below this episode for you to take the quiz yourself and find out your leadership style. And as always, if you would like some coaching support for a situation you're facing, you can schedule a call with Barbara or myself, and we can help you take anything you've heard here and sculpt it to fit your unique scenario and get support. We love helping leaders and teams. We'd love to support you. Hope to hear from you. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. See you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.